then welcome back here on Prime Morning. It's time for us to get into our next conversation, and want to say a big thank you to Nutri Snacks. Of course, you know, without them, we won't be doing this, but we're excited that they're always giving us smiles on our faces, and we're also enjoying the very best of it. You can go ahead and get yours in the markets, wherever you find yourself, you can get Nutri Snacks, and it's very, very delicious and affordable as well. So please do well and grab yourself one this morning as you have breakfast. What you need as Nutri Snacks. Trust me, you will love it. Let's say a big thank you to Food Lovers Fragrance Rice for making the difference out there. People who had a great weekend when it comes to events, and I'm talking about the weddings, the engagements, and all of that. Indeed, had a great time because Food Lovers Special Fragrance Rice made it possible for them to enjoy the very best when it comes to rice, and every single person had a good time. So yeah, if you love food and you love rice, it has to be Food Lovers Special Fragrance Rice. That's what you need, okay? Now, I would like to also let you know that if you're an importer and you're importing goods over 200,000 Ghana cedis now, it is important for you to file your tax. And so please do well and go to GRA and do so. Now, failure to do so, you'll be actually charged a 12.5% increase. If you don't really want to go through that process, then indeed you need to make sure that you're going to actually do so. This is not a new tax. It's just that you are importing more than 200,000 worth of goods, and it's important that you do well to, you know, get that tax going on. All right, so please go and check it out. You can also visit them on the social media platforms on IG and of course on Facebook, and get all the necessary details you need with regards to that as well. All right, so that's what it is. But this morning, ladies and gentlemen, we told you a couple of weeks back that we'll be delving into a very special and sensitive area throughout the month on our primary side, and we're talking about, divorce. All right, so we're actually going to be spending the entire month to get through all of that, and today is actually marking the beginning of our special series that we told you about. We're delving deeper into the topic that affects millions of people out there, and we're talking about divorce. Now, divorce is actually a complex and deeply personal journey that touches on various aspects of our lives, and over the next few weeks, like I said, we're going to be trying as much as possible to bring you a comprehensive exploration of divorce, offering support and also putting some guidance and some valuable insights as well. So we have actually practically assembled a team of experts, including legal professionals, psychologists, financial advisors, and individuals who have actually had first-hand experience when it comes to divorce. Now, together, we will actually be shedding light on the various aspects of this very complex journey that you watching me have been through. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are still battling the issue of divorce, and we want to, as much as possible, try to make things a bit, flexible for them. So today we're starting off, and in the studio with me to help us understand some of the legal implications that are involved in divorce, I have over here Senna Hoto is Esquire, and he's coming from the Parkwood and Mozaine. He's a lawyer, and he's here with us this morning. Now, you can find the location of the firm East Legon here in Accra. And he's actually going to be in the studio with us this morning for us to take a look at it. Now, if you have a personal experience you want to share, you can send it to us. Our WhatsApp line is on your screens. You can actually drop your, story if you like, your real life experience if you like. If you know someone who's also going through it, you can also send a message, with regards to that. And on social media, it's Joy Prime TV on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok. Joy Prime is on Facebook, and we're streaming live. Okay, so you can also share your thought with us over there. This is a very special series that means a lot to us, and we'd like to do it with you. If you've been in one, you can share with us, and we've got the experts that will be taking a look at them in various ways. And so yes, be a part of it. Let me welcome our lawyer in the studio this morning. Lawyer, how are you doing? Good morning, bro.
Good morning.
Everything good?
Very well. Yourself?
I'm great. You're looking dapper. I like your outfit. Lawyers always look like they are prepared for the next case.
I guess it's part of the training.
Yeah. Great stuff. But once again, thanks a lot for making time for us this morning. We appreciate you. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching right now and have been in the situation, and I mean, better still, when we posted that we're going to be having this series, there are people who actually, came talking about experiences. We've had diverse experience, those who are about to start, those who have started, those who are a bit stagnant because they don't know what next stage to move to and all of that. So yes, but what does it mean to actually seek for divorce?
Okay, thank you, KMJ. And a very good morning to all your viewers across the country. Now, divorce is a very, very sensitive subject.
Yeah.
In fact, it's so sensitive that if the process commences in court, it is held in camera or in chambers.
Okay.
And so it's only the parties that will be involved that will have to sit through the process. This is also because some of the things that are shared are so personal and private that until the process is done or over, it is expected that it will be done in the chambers of the judge so as to protect the information of the parties. Now, divorce simply is a legal process that a person or two married people go through to formally bring an end or to determine the marital relationship that the parties have, come together or formed. When we talk of divorce, most people always think of it as for those that have gotten married in the churches or ordinance. But divorce as a legal process in our statute books in Ghana spans from the customary marriage, so what we typically call engagement here in Ghana. And I must say that is a very, very valid marriage.
Oh yeah?
And it's as valid as any of the other forms of marriage.
Because it's believed that the other forms are more important than the engagement.
No.
That's more or less like family meeting families. But
yes.
beyond that is what makes a lot of sense.
That's a perception that is there. But there are a lot of people also going through challenges or issues in customary marriages that will also or have approached us in time past and then need guidance as to how to either get out of it or that they have already gotten out of it, but they need guidance as to the processes that follow. So that aspect also exists. And then the popular and famous one, the ordinance marriages, which most have referred to as the church or the Christian marriages. That is the most popular in terms of the divorce proceedings. And then we also have the Mohammedan processes.
Wow.
So the entire marriage divorce chapter, it's one that's thankfully you're going to have it as a series and it's going to spread or span between now and the end of July. And so hopefully we'll have the time to be able to dissect all aspects of it, from the application process, if you have decided, because that's a big decision. So if you have decided that you want to exit the marriage, what do you do from the very first start? Who do you contact? What are the relevant informations that we would need to be able to make an application at the court on your behalf? So these are some of the things that we'll be looking at.
Interesting. So now let's look at the legal aspect of it. What are the legal weights in seeking divorce, and are there differences in them that we have to know?
Okay, so the processes vary depending on the nature and type of marriage that was contracted.
Okay.
So that if you contracted a marriage under custom or customary marriage, you can, for lack of a better word, dissolve that marriage through the various customary practices of the place that you belong to.
Okay.
So, for example, if you married through the ever traditional custom or the Akan or the Ga custom, the processes vary slightly, but on the average, there are some that are common, across board.
Okay.
And so some of those ones are that if both parties have decided that, hey, this is not going to work anymore, and if time permits, I'll share some of the things that people can rely on as the facts to dissolve a marriage. Ultimately, in all three categories of marriages, the most important factor, or we call it in law, the grounds for divorce, is just one.
Okay, which is that
the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation.
That is the last point that it gets to.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That is the final point. So
okay.
for the courts to even grant that divorce proceedings that you have initiated, it must be convinced, or your counsel must convince the court that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. And again, it comes back to the nature of the marriage that was contracted.
Okay.
So if you're looking at
maybe we can use one of the groups you mentioned earlier, the guy, as an example. So if we're looking at maybe an other, for example, they have to now start from where the families,
yes,
before it gets to the court.
Yes. So the entire process can be done either from the family point of view, or even though it's a customary marriage that was contracted, the parties, if they decide, can have the dissolution done through court. Okay. The MCA, the Matrimonial Causes Act, has a provision that allows people to do that. And MKG, I must say that it's really important that even if you dissolve it at home, using the various traditional methods, it's important that you also make an application to the court for two reasons. And I'll share an example of why I think that this process is very, very important. One, you're traveling. And then, so we've had an instance of a person that came to the office, and then she's traveling, and she has told the embassies that she was previously married. Clearly, she was married under the customary marriage process or procedure. Now, the embassy wants proof that the marriage is no longer subsisting, because you told them that you are a divorcee and then you married under custom. Now, if you have not gone through a court process, how will you show, or what are you going to use to show the embassy, or generally to the entire world,
that you're no longer
married? Now, under the customary marriage, for example, if you marry under custom, you can register your marriage, so that if you divorce, you can also register your divorce and get a document to prove it. But we all know most customary marriages are not registered. And so if you go to the court, the first advantage it gives you is that you can have a document that proves to the whole world that, yes, you are married, and then that marriage has broken down. The second, and I think the most important reason why, even if you go through the customary process, you must go to the court, is that it gives you an opportunity to tell the court that, hey, I am no longer interested in this marriage for XYZ reasons. However, I have kids who are minors, and there's a thorny issue of custody. Who keeps them? These are things that we easily gloss over, and then it becomes major
serious issue altogether.
And that's one of the things we'll be discussing over the period of this series. Custody. It's a very, very important battle, and you'll be amazed that who even names a child becomes a huge issue.
Wow.
Who even gets to name the child when the marriage has broken down?
Wow.
And so that is one of the advantages it gives you. It also helps you to tell the courts that, yes, we were married under custom, but we acquired certain properties. Or when we got married together, we acquired 3 houses at East Legon, 1 Trasaco, and all those other places. And so the court should intervene in helping to distribute those properties equitably. And so those are some of the advantages advantages you can get when you go through that route. And then also, you can now move to the most popular one that we're all used to, the ordinance marriage.
Okay.
Now, under the ordinance process, the most important thing, again, is that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. How do you determine that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation? It's a very important process. And there are about seven major, we call that in law, facts.
Okay.
That you can use to establish that a marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. So,
7 of them.
Yes, 7 of them. So you have somebody walk into your office and then he or she, mostly she, says, good morning, lawyer, I have a problem. And you are wondering, where do I place? Because beyond those 7 facts, you cannot bring an action to prove that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. So you must.
So the person has to give you every reasons that would fit into those 7 facts.
No, it doesn't have to. You don't have to prove all 7. You just need to prove 1.
Oh.
You just need to prove 1.
So how do you make up for the rest on the person's behalf?
It's I would say it's bonus if you're able to prove more than 1.
Okay.
It establishes a stronger case.
Yeah.
But essentially, once you're able to establish 1 of them, you're good to go. So the person comes to you and then begins to tell his or her story that, let's say I have found that my wife or my husband is having an affair somewhere else. And then the person even goes further to say that, look, I even heard that he has 2 children somewhere else. That is evidence to prove that adultery has occurred or has happened. And so one of the first facts that you can use to establish or prove that a marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation is that one of the parties has committed adultery. And MK, this is so, you'd be amazed to see that or to hear that if without any empirical data, I can top of my head say that over 60-70% of all proceedings, divorce proceedings, are anchored on this very first one.
Really?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes. and
wow.
It's surprising to know that this is still one of the single most influential or important factor that drives people to divorce. And I've always said that, let me put it this way. I have friends who would say that you lawyers are always in to break homes and, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. And then a good friend of mine, rebuts it by saying that, lawyers are doing God's work.
Oh.
What God hasn't put together, you have a sworn duty, to ensure that it doesn't stay together.
Yeah.
And so if these things are affecting your mental health, people are in homes that they are suffering, either diseases because one of the partners keep repeatedly going out and then bringing all sort of things home.
Yeah.
And this has affected them psychologically so much that they feel like they cannot go on anymore. And I am of the opinion that as much as I'm a firm believer that families should be kept together, but if it threatens your life, and there are a lot of people going through some of these things, the wife or the husband, most of the time we blame the husbands, but we've had cases where, yes, the wife, because the husband is having fertility issues or is having some other forms of issues, the partners go out there and then they get pregnant and then they come back home. And we've had situations. I'm sure you are aware of the Odate Lamte, and then there are so many cases where these days people are finding out either online or something through DNA tests that they are not the biological father, or it's very unlikely that you know that you are not the biological mother. Yes, there are very, very few situations. It actually happens. There are very, very few situations where the person is not the biological mother. And she also finds out and actually is surprised because there's maybe a switch at birth at the hospital and so on and so on and so forth. But back to the point, the adultery is one of the key grounds. Now, how do you, if you're at home and you're watching the show, how do you establish, or what are some of the things you must note down to speak to your lawyer about if your problem is grounded in the first fact, which is adultery? You must begin to, because it's a law court, and the law court deals with evidence.
Okay.
As much as, and again, as much as you want to stay together, nobody can force two people to be together. But you must convince the court or persuade the court
that these are the reasons why I want out.
Yes. And so you would have to establish that, one, the person involved, either the husband or the spouse, has, okay, it's a morning show, we can use it anyway. So has, gone and then had an affair.
Yeah.
By affair, I mean, that affair has probably resulted in having a child. So when I say affair, because it's a morning show, we can't go beyond.
I mean, I've gone to access, it's okay. I think it's something we can use. So.
Exactly.
And there's pregnancy out of it.
There's an issue out of it. And so there are a number of cases, Ajete and Ajete, the Odate Lamte situation, and a number of cases that has relied on this very first ground. And so if you're able to put these evidences together, then you are on a good footing to be able to prove the first fact. Then let me put a pause to these facts and then bring us back. There is something that I think we should all be made aware of or know. Everybody thinks that to dissolve a marriage, it must be necessarily through the regular divorce process.
Okay.
But a marriage can also be annulled. So you can go through what we call the nullity proceedings.
Okay.
So that if you can prove to the court that this marriage is void ab initio, or is void from the beginning, then the court can make an order to annul that marriage.
It's similar as dissolving the marriage.
Yes.
But this one, you're not going to go to court back and forth, or how is that done?
So when we say a marriage is void, what we're trying to say is that the marriage didn't even exist in the first place. So you thought you were married, but the marriage didn't even exist in the first place. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
So let me use two names, good friends of mine. I'm sure they're listening and they'll be happy. So Michael, Pauline. So M and then P. So M gets married to P. And then 3 years down the lane, P finds out that, so M marries P in church under the ordinance. And then 3 years down the line, someone calls P. Hello, P, I hear you're with my husband, and we've been married for 10 years now. So what are you doing with him? As soon as you find out that information, and then you've done your checks, and then it checks out, and you're no longer interested in the marriage, technically that second marriage, because you thought yours was the first,
but now
then
you realize that
yours is the second.
Yeah.
It means automatically that yours didn't even exist. Okay. The law still has protection for the kids that came out as a result of their second marriage. Yeah. But you, as an individual, will be considered as a concubine in law.
Okay.
So even though you have gone to church, you have done all the notices, and everybody thinks that you are married, you don't need to go through the long process of trying to divorce.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to even divorce in the first place. If, for example, you find out you've met somebody and you've been married, so if you're at home, you find out that the partner you're with, you did all your checks, and then later one grand uncle or grandmom pops up and tells you that, hey, this is your long lost brother. It automatically determines that marriage. So consanguinity is one of the most important things also that you can use to void a marriage, amongst others.
How long does it take to dissolve that kind of marriage? A week or two, a month?
So,
because I know the other side, some have spent about 5 years, they're still going back and forth. I don't know about this one.
The time usually depends on a lot of factors.
Okay.
But the most important thing is, when can you bring that action?
Okay.
Because you cannot bring an action to annul. Well, there are a few exceptions, but ordinarily you cannot bring an action to annul after 1 year. So if you find out all the things that you need to, you must bring the action within a year. Otherwise,
of the marriage.
Okay. Otherwise, you will have to consider a divorce proceedings, which is a longer one.
So beyond 1 year, it makes it a proper marriage of a sort, or it's still not married, but I mean, because it has gone beyond 1 year, you need to go through the other process.
Yes, because it's gone beyond 1 year. But like I said, there are exceptions.
Okay.
So, for example, if the marriage is void, it's void. Even if it's 10 years, you can still go and then commence that action. It only means that the processes that you would have to go through are relatively less, because in a regular divorce proceedings, you are preparing a petition. So in court, what you send to the court or what you file at the court when it comes to marriages is called a petition, a divorce petition.
Okay.
So whereas in the first one, where you're going through the nullity proceedings with the goal of getting the marriage annulled, this one you're going through a petition, and then you must file it. There must be a reply or an answer, a reply, and back and forth, file your witness statements, and then all those things, which is a very, very long process. But it's not. I say it's long.
The emphasis was actually on very, very.
Yes, I say it's very, very long because the average marriages, when they are going through the process of being dissolved, factors in children, property, and then it can get complicated. So when it's complicated, it takes a while. But if it's what I call, and what most lawyers refer to as a cut and shut, which is both parties are married and then there are no kids involved, there are no properties involved, and then both of you have decided you want to go your separate ways, it's relatively easier and shorter, because for one reason or the other, you guys realize that you're not working, and so you want to go your separate ways. And then it's been 2 years since the marriage. If it is something that you're going to annul, it must be within 1 year. But if you have just married, it must take at least 2 years before you can bring a divorce petition.
I see. Interesting. Now, if you just join us here, you can send your messages to us on our WhatsApp line. It's on your screens. And so if you have any real life experience you want to share with us, if you're going through a divorce process, you want to share where you've gotten to, how frustrated you are. And I've got a few friends, who have come to a point where they don't know whether they are going or they are coming back, and it's a very, very difficult situation. It's really a very difficult situation, and so we would want to help, and that's the reason why we've started this series, and we're going to make sure we get all the people that matter in terms of giving you support, giving you guidance and all that, so you can walk through. This morning, lawyer Senna has been telling us a lot from the onset. If you decide that okay, you want to do this, some of the factors you need to consider before you are even given the green light to go ahead, the evidence you need to gather and all of that. So we're going to be getting through all this. It's a big deal. Let's talk about the forms that are involved in terms of maybe say a collaborative, or we have to just be looking at one side. So what basically forms a divorce process? Is it the two parties that have to come together and say that okay, we want to do this, we're ready to do this, or the other person has to go and report, and then it comes back, and then the other one is invited? How is that process done?
Okay, so it's easier if both parties have agreed that they want to go through the divorce process. It's easier. But then again, you cannot force two people to remain in a marriage where one person is emotionally gone or has decided that he or she is actually gone. And so you can do it alone, make the application, and then the other part. So once you get the first thing, talk to your lawyer. So speak to a lawyer, discuss the whole issue with him or her. It's important you speak to a lawyer because, and then again, I find that people tend to want to go and do it themselves. You can also do it yourself.
Okay.
If it's a very simple process, you can go to the court. But the challenge is preparing the petition right. So
at all costs, you need a lawyer.
Yes, it's advisable that you get a lawyer who will guide you in preparing, who first listen to your story and situate it within the 7 facts of proving that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. And then the lawyer will help you to prepare a petition. So that petition will then be filed at the court. So it can be filed at the circuit court, it can be filed at the high court, and then once the petitions have been filed, and now even the district court, once the petitions has been filed, that begins it. That petition is served on your other spouse. One petition is served on your other spouse, and then once they receive that petition, they must file an answer to that petition. If you decide you're not going to file an answer to it, there's another process that we go through as lawyers to help you to achieve your goal of getting the divorce out of the way. So that's a summary of, without going into the technicalities and then creating confusion in the minds of our viewers this morning. So to make it as simple as possible, get a lawyer, describe your story to him or her. He or she will ask you the relevant questions and then try to put together the evidences that are needed. And then once all of that are put together, then the petition is filed. Once the petition is filed, it is the beginning of the end, if you put it that way.
The beginning of the end. So it means that before anybody decides on that, they need to be aware what they are getting themselves involved.
Exactly.
Now, what are some of the things that couples would have to consider in terms of embarking on the divorce, journey or the process itself?
If you say consider exactly.
Okay, this is the decision we've made. These are some of the things that would come out of it. Like you rightly said, if their properties, their kids, and all of that, what are they supposed to be seeing from where they are beginning from? How the processes, what is involved in the processes, and how long it's going to take, and all of that. Are there things that they need to sit down and analyze very well and say maybe even the situation or the reason we want to do this it's a reason we can both solve. And so let's sit back and see if we can do, something about it. Are there things they have to consider with regards to that?
You see, by the time couples get to the point where they want to divorce, most of them are not talking. Yes. And so it's difficult to have these two people who were lovey-dovey just a few years ago are now at the point of choking each other. And so it's important that there's a third party in there who will help to calm the nerves. So the woman will get her lawyer, and then the man will get his lawyer as well. And then what makes the process usually long is when you leave everything to the arbiter, which is the judge, to determine every aspect of the divorce. But the parties can decide and then put what we call a terms of settlement and say that, look, I am not interested in dragging this matter. I wouldn't even have so much time to take care of the kids, so have custody of the kids, but let me get visitation rights. So then both parties can agree that, okay, you would visit once a month or twice a month. I find that people gloss over a lot of things like birthdays. When it is mommy's birthday or it's daddy's birthday, will the kids be over, at your mom's place when there's a birthday, when there's an anniversary, when there's Father's Day, when there's Mother's Day, and all those things. So all those details are determined in the terms of settlement agreement, including properties, amongst others. So once you can give the judge a sense of what we want, the court will be mandated to enter your terms of settlement as consent judgment. And so I've seen a situation, in fact, I was in court in a matter where the parties, and I can say this because it's now public record.
Okay.
It's been settled. So where the parties, the woman says, I don't want anything from the man. I will take care of the kid myself.
Wow.
And so prepare the document for me and then let me sign. And so when it appeared in front of the judge was like, Madam, is everything okay? Is everything okay?
But they had properties, they had things that...
Yes, they did. And
he didn't want any,
she didn't want
any
anything.
of that.
She can make her own money. She can take care of her kids herself. And you see, people always think that custody and properties must always move from the man to the woman in divorce processes. I've been in court where the judge has ordered the woman to settle the man.
Oh.
And give him part of her properties. And so those are some of the... We'll discuss properties in details when we get there.
We'll explain how the properties are shared and all of that. Yes. Now, you mentioned that a very important thing that would lead to divorce is adultery. There are about 7 of them, facts that you need to, be able to make all of those facts available. Yes. If you're able to make one, it's okay. Let's delve into the other ones.
The other ones.
What are those ones that we didn't mention?
So the second most common or popular, if half of the time, if a person walks into the office, if it's not adultery, it's unreasonable behavior. So unreasonable behavior is the second one. So look at the situation where a party or a husband or a wife, I say husband and wife because these days some women are even beating up the men. So a wife or a husband beats up the other person, locks them up, and then locks them up outside in the mosquitoes, and then repeatedly does that. And then he chokes her and then does all kind of things that demeans either the man or the woman. And then it puts a strain on his or her mental health. She finds that I can't do this anymore because my life is at stake. And there are a lot of people going through these at home. The domestic violence and then all these kind of things. There are people who feel like my partner is not respecting me enough. My partner talks to me anyhow. There was this popular case that the woman even calls the man's office to insult him goes to the office to make a scene, and then, does all kind of things that is considered unreasonable. So once you can establish that this behavior is unreasonable, and this behavior will have an effect on me, and so I cannot continue in this path anymore, then you have reached that point where you can rely on that fact to prove that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. Remember that the fact that you have proved unreasonable behavior is not enough, or you've proved adultery alone is not enough for the court to say, let's break down the marriage. Because the courts are not in a hurry to break down institutions that have been made from time immemorial. But the point too is that the courts are also not going to condone situations where two parties are not interested in being together and then they'll be forced to be together, or that what they came together to create, which is a marriage, has broken down beyond reconciliation.
So in this case, the court will also try to maybe speak to them first, see if they can resolve that behavior, unreasonable behavior situation.
When the process begins, one of the points or the paragraphs on your divorce petition will be that you will tell the court that you have attempted to remedy the situation. And so the court will be interested in finding out, what have you done to try to, remedy the situation? Is it that you just woke up and then had a feeling in your gut that today is the day, and then tomorrow you would regret it? So the court will be certain, and then you must convince the court that yes, we called a family gathering, and then the parents of both partners were present. We tried to resolve the matter, and then he didn't even show up, or she didn't even show up, or he even showed up, but he showed up drunk.
Or even repeated the same thing again after.
Exactly. And so if you're able to prove that, look, we've done everything. We've met like 2 or 3 times. I spoke to his pastor or her pastor. I spoke to her best friend, and it appears that it's still the same thing she continues to do. And you see, the unreasonableness of the behavior is not only in what is being done, but in Ajete and Ajete, what was considered unreasonable behavior is the excessive demand for sex. Yes. And from the man. And it was so bad that the woman will sleep, wake up, open her eyes, and then there's somebody, the man was there. Yeah. And so it got to the point that she was always afraid and then scared when she sees the man. And so these are some of the things that we can under unreasonable.
Okay, what's the other one that we can look at too?
So when you talk about adultery, you talk about unreasonable behavior, then you can talk about desertion. Desertion is the point where one party, either the husband or the wife, packs their stuff and then moves out to live either with the parents or somewhere else. Now, when it comes to desertion, it can be so for example, the wife gets a scholarship to study abroad, and then she tells the husband that, hey, honey, I have a scholarship, I want to go and study abroad. And he says, oh, it's okay, 2 years is fine, you can go and come. He steps out for the 2 years, finishes her course. Within that 2 years, you cannot say that she has deserted you. Because you consented to her going. Now check this out. After the 2 years, she calls you and says, I think I have a PhD now. I want to do it. And then you say, no, as for the PhD, another 4 years. We agreed on 2 years. We agreed on 2 years and 4 years. No, I can't do that. And then she continues to do her own thing as she would have it. And so she would have stayed for, let's say, about 4 years. You can rely on desertion. But one of the most important aspects of desertion that is happening these days that we must draw our mind to is that if you cause somebody to move from your house, so you inflict unreasonable behavior on the person, so you beat the person, you threaten the person, you do all kind of things, and then he or she packs his things.
That's when they move to their moms or their parents.
To their parents or their friends or get their own apartment. And it's past 2 years. You cannot rely on that fact that they've deserted you, because we say that you caused them to move. So it's constructive desertion.
Okay.
So because you are the one that caused them to do that, you cannot rely on it. Remember, if you cannot rely or prove one of them, there are so many others that you can rely on. So, but for the desertion, you cannot prove it. You cannot rely on it. Then you are also looking at the next one, which is separation for 2 years. So if you have been separated for 2 years and you feel like both of you have decided that this is not going to work, and then you go to your separate places, and then both parties go their separate ways, but they haven't formally done the process. After 2 years, you can rely on the fact that you've been separated for that long and that you haven't had any form of contact. There's been no consummation. There's been nothing of the sort. And so you can rely on that fact and then bring a petition to the court to help, dissolve the matter. The same thing can also happen if it's after 5 years.
Okay.
So you can also have separation for 5 years. Or the last one, inability to reconcile. So you have issues that you've been married, yes, but there are issues that are so thorny between the two of you that you have very, very strong positions on. So you have decided that I'll take position A, and then she has also decided she'll take position B, and both of you are not willing to budge. So, for example, you want an extra, or you want X number of children and she doesn't, or you want to have kids now and she says, I want to wait for 4 years or 5 years, and amongst others, and you have discussed them, and it appears that there's nothing that can be done about it, and both of you feel like it's a deal breaker. So if it's a deal breaker, there hasn't been any adultery, you guys are okay. So there's no unreasonableness in any behavior. There isn't any desertion. There isn't any separation for either 2 or 5 years. But you just cannot, agree on something. And that thing is not, we're not looking at trivials, things that are weighty enough to be able to convince the court. Because we're not in the court to, just show ourselves and tell the judge that we don't want to do it anymore. But you must be able to put it all together, something weighty enough to be able to convince the judge. So these are the facts that you can use as a petitioner or as somebody who is ready to take that step. Having spoken to your lawyer and you're ready to take that step, these are the facts that your lawyer would help you reduce into writing. So when you do these things, you put it together, then you can make your application.
Okay. All right. So I'll read some messages for us to get to know what our viewers also think. Right. And then maybe we'll get to know some of the courts that actually even, handle these divorce issues. We'll also try and then pick some calls as well and see those who want to also share their thoughts and their experiences on the show. So let me run through some of the messages over here and see. Okay. This one says, hello, my name is Prince Hoto. I want to thank Esquire Hoto for the information regarding divorce. This is a very important issue that most people have no ground information on. Okay, so yes, it's going to be our conversation throughout the month, so you want to be a part of that. This one says, good morning, please ask the lawyer for me, what happens where only one partner wants a divorce, where the kids are also involved? So this one is just one partner that wants it. It's like the other person does not agree that it should happen, but there are kids also involved. So maybe we'll get back to you to answer that as well. This one is very long. It says, I've been married for 2 years and 2 months, but we've never stayed in a room for even a day, and the man is asking for a divorce. We did not even go for honeymoon for reasons best known to him. He started asking for a divorce 3 months after the marriage.
Wow.
3 months after the marriage. I'm also no longer interested because he has issues with my child. I had a child and he knew. Since January, he has not called nor sent money. It's a wedding and the court was involved during the marriage. What should I do?
But they've consummated. Do they have a child?
Okay, so the lady brought a child actually.
But
so
between the two of them,
they have never stayed in union in a day after the marriage. So you can imagine.
I think we can speak to her offline. But
okay,
do you want me to answer or you finish reading the other questions?
Okay, answer the first two. Answer this one and then maybe the previous one so that.
So, like I said, you can't force somebody to be in a marriage. So the issue of, in those days we used to hear story as I won't sign. If you cannot say you wouldn't sign, once it gets to the point where the petition has been filed, you will be served with it,
and you have to sign.
You are expected to respond. You come to court and come and demonstrate, or let your lawyer come and demonstrate why maybe certain averments or certain statements have been made against you as a person. And sometimes even when it comes to adultery and things of that nature, some people's names are even mentioned in the petition. So you can come to court and come and explain those things. But if you are not interested, the process will continue.
Okay. The other one over here also says that. Okay, let me.
So the lady whose husband wants a divorce, 2 years, 2 months.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would be interested whether the marriage. Anyway, so once she's saying it's 2 years and 2 months.
2 months. Yeah.
So they have moved away from the
separation.
The nullity aspect.
Okay.
However, it's important for us to know whether there was consummation from the write-up.
Okay.
It's not clear whether that marriage there was a consummation. So if there's consummation, then we're moving away from the nullity proceedings, and then we are entering into a divorce proceedings proper. And so it's important to have further conversations with her on this subject. So
okay, the lawyer will put his number out there so that those who want to still speak to him, you can do so. This one says, you have married and lived for some time with kids. Then your father-in-law brings back traditional drinks one day that his daughter says she is not interested in a marriage. What do you do when the marriage is confirmed by ordinance? So he's been married and they've lived with kids. Then the father-in-law brings back the drinks that they sent to the woman. The father brings it back and says that they are not interested in the marriage again. And
these things are. I think that we've gone past these things as a nation or as a country. That as soon as in law, as soon as you do an ordinance marriage, if with the same person, so you have had, so in the beginning of the show, you realize I said that they all have the same force of law. But you marry party A, you do the engagement. It's a full marriage. But you decide to convert the customary marriage into ordinance. So you do the ordinance marriage either in court or you do it in church. The customary marriage falls away.
Okay.
So it doesn't even exist anymore for you to say you have brought any drinks.
Once you add the other one to the ordinance by the court or the church.
You cannot add it to it. It's
the
this
other one
or
goes
that.
off.
So this one just falls off.
Okay.
So as soon as it falls off, there's no such thing as I'm bringing drinks back. If you bring it back and you want us to just enjoy it, I mean, that's fine. But it doesn't have any force of law. So you are bringing drinks back and all those things. As soon as you have had an ordinance, you have converted that customary law marriage into an ordinance. And if you do that, so the simple answer to the lady is maybe it's just a fanfare or it's a show that the father-in-law did, but it has no force of law. It has no force of law, and that marriage still exists if it's been properly done under ordinance. That's a whole new chapter as well.
We'll get to that point too. This one says, good morning, Joy Prime. I'm Daniel Alirimbe, watching you live from Greater Kumasi region. My question to lawyer is, why doesn't the Catholic Church allow divorce? Isn't annulment just Catholic divorce?
Well, this is more like canon law. I mean, I think at this point we're doing the domestic law over here, but I believe the Catholic Church has its own rules. As much as the church has its own rules, I'm not holding brief for the church, but as much as they have its own rules, it's only applicable to the people that exist or are in the church. And so you can legally have your marriage and divorce, but if you want to partake in the church's communions and activities, then the church's rules apply to you. But you are not bound to, decide or say that because Church A says this, I will do that. If you want to be involved in the church's activity, I believe that the church has its own canon rules that you can follow. But as a citizen of Ghana, the overarching law that governs us, including the Constitution and then the Matrimonial Causes Act, allows you to get a divorce.
Okay. This one says, hello KMJ, please, if a man has 2 wives under the traditional marriage and later the man decided to wed the first, can the second marriage become void even though they were married before the court wedding? The court wedding was due to some papers for traveling. Okay.
So, I'm laughing because these are very common, issues that we experience as lawyers. And I would say again that each marriage is a full marriage on its own. So you cannot say, if you're converting the marriage for the same person, if it's the same person, you can convert. But if you are going to marry another person, if you're going to marry another person and you're going to marry the person under customary law, because remember that under customary law, you can marry as many as you can conveniently take care of, or you can conveniently have and then take care of. And so if you want to marry again under customary law, you can marry as many as you want. You just cannot do the ordinance together with the customary law. And so technically, the ordinance marriage that is happening, or with the other party, a third party coming in, it's null and void.
Okay. This one says, good morning. My husband left our matrimonial bed for almost 5 years. We have 3 kids, married for 24 years. Can this lead to divorce?
The simple answer is yes. The long answer is we can have this conversation after, because there are a lot more questions that we need to ask to be sure that, sometimes one party says their story, and then by the time you listen to the other side of the story, it's a different ball game. And so I'm happy to have this conversation with with the person.
The lady, all right. So this one says, and this one is coming from Kay in Tema. It says, my wife filed for divorce. The court granted it, but we did not sign any divorce document. Is the marriage legally dissolved? We have kids, though she has also not returned the traditional drinks.
So it comes back to the same point. People confuse the customary law, which we call here in Ghana the engagement, with the ordinance. The two of them cannot subsist at the same time. So if you do customary law or engagement and you give ring to the person, in law we say you have promised to marry the person under ordinance. which if you fail, the person can take you to court anyway.
Okay.
We call it a breach of promise to marry.
Oh.
So once you have converted that marriage into ordinance, the customary law marriage falls away. Again, you have filed a petition to the court. So your wife has filed a petition to the court. A decree has been issued. So a decree is like a divorce certificate. So once that has been issued by the court, unless you can establish or you can prove that some fraud happened throughout the process, once a decree is issued by the court, effectively the marriage is dissolved.
Okay. This one says, greetings. Can you appeal to have a divorce case reviewed if you realized you haven't been given fair judgment? Emmanuel sent in that one.
Fair judgment, I'm wondering what fair judgment
Maybe the properties he expected more, maybe too many of the properties have been taken away from him.
Yes, so, okay, if that's the question, then you may not have it reviewed, but you can appeal.
Okay.
So there's a process. When we get to the discussion of property, we'll look at the formula and then all those from Article 22, the Matrimonial Causes Act, and then all the relevant laws that govern the distribution of properties, the proportions, and all of that. So if you feel that you have not been treated well in the distribution of properties, for example, or you are convinced, you are fortified in your belief that you should have had custody of the children and that your legal team pushed across a very strong case, but the court gave a judgment that did not go in your favor, you can appeal.
Okay.
But there's a period for appeal, so you must make sure that you are doing that within the period.
This one says, good morning, host. If the woman is guilty, can she claim a share of the man's property, whether or not she initiated the divorce proceedings?
I think this gentleman should continue to watch this series to the end, because properties are a very thorny issue. The question of guilty or not is not really relevant.
Okay.
The question for me is that have you been able to prove any of the 7 facts or elements to establish that the marriage has broken down? And then the most important aspect of this question for me is that was that property acquired during the pendency of the marriage? And was any contribution made
from the woman?
And when I say contribution, the cleaning of the house, the taking care of the children constitute contribution.
They're all part of it.
Exactly. And so he should stay tuned to this program. If
the woman didn't contribute any financial whatever it is and was just cleaning the house for you,
but she gave you peace of mind to look daft and come to the studio and work and make extra money.
I see.
And so
that part will be very interesting when we get there. Really. Another one over here, please. I want you to confirm this for me. I keep hearing that when you live with a woman for some number of years, it can be termed as marriage. Is that true?
Yes, it is. It is. So
how many years we're looking
all those doing the boyfriend, girlfriend, and
some of them 10 years already.
I know there are some even in the studio who are laughing, but I'm sure these are very critical aspects of the law that people tend to turn a blind eye to. So you live with somebody, you're not formally married.
Yeah.
But you have carried yourself across to everybody. Everybody knows that, Kofi Papa knew. Everybody knows to wait that is Kofi's father or that is Ame's husband. Even though you're not married, you have, carried yourself in that light. You even have joint accounts. You are doing everything that married people do. Over time, the court can infer that you were married customarily. It will infer customary marriage to it. Even though you haven't sent any drinks or anything of the sort, that relationship will crystallize into into a customary marriage.
I see. Maybe this will be my last comments, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Thursday we're going to continue. So this one says, "Hello KMJ, please. If a man has two wives under the traditional marriage, and later the man decided to wear the first one." Okay, I think you've read this one there. Let me go back. Okay, this one says, "Please, my husband and I just got married in a legal way, but I later found out that he firstly had a customary marriage, and they have 2 kids already. Please, am I safe because he has decided to be with me?"
I think this again looks more like a very sensitive topic. But I realize the question keeps coming up. He's married under this form of marriage, and then he's going to marry again under the other form. You cannot have the two subsisting, and one is not less. So customary law is not less or down there, and then the ordinance is up there. Once he's married, he's married. Whether it's under customary law or under ordinance. The second marriage will not be recognized. I mean, sorry to put it blunt, but let me say subject to a few exceptions, but the second person will not be recognized. Yes, your kids will have validity, because under Ghanaian law, the concept of a child that is unknown, or you know, we have these things that they say or abanoma, or those kind of concepts are not really recognized. Even though he's had children with another person, those children will be recognized. But there's a process to get legally recognized. And so if you're interested in getting validity for that marriage, you know, sometimes the customary marriage may have ended, but they haven't taken the steps to complete the process before going to contract the second marriage. In fact, it's a criminal offense to marry more than one. I mean, in that light, it's an offense. And so if both of them are interested in the legal guidance to give validity to their relationship, let me call it that way, to their relationship, they can leave their number after the show, or they can get in touch with you. Okay. And then we can discuss that further. Okay.
So it's going to be a month-long conversation, and I'm sure that most of your questions will be answered here on the show. Even after the lawyers and our experts who will be coming here will make sure that they are able to, you know, give you some sort of guidance for you to keep yourself going. It's very, very sensitive area, but that's what we've decided to do this month, in the month of July. So please, you can ahead of time keep sending your messages, your stories on our social media page on Joy Prime TV, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. You can do a video and post it on our, you know, TikTok page or WhatsApp. You know, just if you don't want to write it, just do a video and then you send the video to us. We'll take a look at it, and then we'll let our lawyers and experts also take a look at it for you and see how best we can help you. We are in this journey with you together, and of course our experts over here will be helping us. Lawyer, thank you so much for coming through. We really appreciate you, and please put your number out there for those who want to. Oh, that one. Don't be trouble.
So let them get in touch with you. And
then we'll just relay that to you as well.
Or you can go to the firm's website.
Okay.
www.parkwoodandmosaic.com. You can just Google us, and then you'll find it. Or get in touch with the hosts, and then direct your questions. I'll take all the questions from there, and then we can see how we can help. Divorce is a very sensitive topic, and you don't have to go through it alone. You have your legal team to help you to dissect the issues, and then help you to get clarity and then closure, the most important thing when you go through this process. And so thank you so much for the time, and then I appreciate that you're doing this for your viewers and then the country at large. It's an expensive process, and so to have a lawyer here in the studio to break it down, a session like this at the firm may have cost, but you're getting it for free on TV. And so I'm hoping that after today's show, a lot more people will tune in, at the next session so that we can discuss and break down these matters and then help solve some of these problems. Thank you.
Lawyer Sena Hoto is Esquire and is coming from Parkwood and Zane, and they're located East Legon. He put the website over there, so please make sure you go and then send your, problems there. They will help you, and we're grateful once again.